The FTC is launching a probe of the generic drug supply chain following a shortage of medicines over the last year that has forced hospitals to ration drugs. For more on this issue, we want to bring in former FDA Commissioner Dr. Scott Gottlieb, who is an Illumina and Pfizer board member, also a CNBC contributor. Dr. Gottlieb, let's dig into this a little bit. There has been a lot of finger pointing when it comes to why we've seen these shortages of generic drugs. Do you think the FTC is on the mark here?
Well, look, I think the consolidated purchasing under the group purchasing organizations, under the GPOs, is just one factor. I think it's a symptom of the disease. I don't think it's the cause of the disease. These markets have consolidated when it comes to the production of these drugs because these drugs are produced at very low margin. Medicare reimbursement has been driven down under Medicare price controls. It's been exacerbated by the IRA, which prevents companies from taking price increases. And so when you have very low margin products, you get consolidation in the manufacturing of these products to just a handful of manufacturers. They can't invest back in their manufacturing processes, so you don't have first-rate manufacturing processes generally in these markets. And what goes into shortage are the sterile injectable drugs, because they're the ones that are the most vulnerable to supply disruptions and things going wrong with the manufacturing process. When you look across this marketplace, you have a very small number of manufacturers making these drugs. And the result is, on the other end, on the purchasing end, you have a very small number of GPOs purchasing these drugs. I think that's a reaction to the fact that you don't have a competitive market on the production side. I'll just say, final point, this was pitched as an exclusive to the Wall Street Journal by the FTC, which is awkward. So I'm not sure how serious they are about trying to address the root causes of this. I think if the government really wants to address the root causes of this, they're going to need to look at how they price these products and make these markets profitable again, so you get more manufacturers into these spaces, and those manufacturers reinvest in their manufacturing processes to shore them up. 50% of all the drugs that go into shortage in this country are sterile injectable drugs.
You think that's likely to happen, just in terms of making the market more vibrant?
It's been talked about. There's ways to unbundle the codes in Medicare to allow the codes to float so that manufacturers who come into the market, who can make claims around the reliability of their manufacturing or the quality of their products to the end purchasers, can charge more for those drugs. And I think the marketplace would be willing to pay for that certainty. We've talked about trying to make modifications to the IRA that would allow price increases in some of these markets where you do have these perpetual shortages. I think there's also ways to create schemes where you can allow manufacturers to make limited claims around the quality and reliability of their manufacturing, and then allow them to charge for that under Medicare. So you might be able to put claims and labels around the quality of the manufacturing, and then they can get compensated for that if they can guarantee that they're going to have reliable, stable supplies to people like GPOs or hospitals. I think they will be willing to pay for quality. Over time, what's happened in these markets, and I saw it when I was at FDA, is because the margins are so low, the manufacturers really couldn't invest back in manufacturing, so you had outdated manufacturing facilities. And that doesn't work so well when you have a sterile injectable drug. It's okay in the small molecule world, pill-based drugs, where there's not a lot that can go wrong. But when you're dealing with sterile injectable drugs, where there's a lot of things that can go wrong, you want to have modern manufacturing facilities, and the margins really didn't allow that. The FDA stepped in, increased regulation, but that just added to costs and chased more manufacturers out of the market.